welcome. I'd like to thank Chelsea Colley for including me in her booth presentations at the Best You Expo. I'm thrilled to be a part of an event with such powerful and influential speakers. My name is KARIANNE MUNSTEDT. I'm an award-winning business branding photographer, a speaker, a coach, and an author. And I'm so excited to present my talk, From Bully to Bestie, How Changing Your Thoughts Changes Everything to You Today. Now, typically I present this talk to women's groups, but for all the guys watching, don't leave just yet. While I will refer to women throughout this talk, there's still valuable information for the men as well. So everyone grab a notebook and a pen and let's get started. Do you know a bully? Take a second and think about that. What if I told you that you definitely know a bully and that you are the biggest bully in your own life? Ouch, right? That hurts. Now, bullying is a serious problem in our world today. But the type of bullying that we're talking about isn't the type that's inflicted on one person by another. The bullying that we're discussing today is self-bullying, the bullying that we do to the most important person in our lives, ourselves. It might sound something like this. You're not pretty enough. No one will like you. You're not smart enough. You'll never have that. And that voice is even louder during this time of COVID and quarantine isolation. You're not a good enough homeschool teacher. You're not doing enough projects around the house. You're not taking good enough care of your business and your employees. You get the picture, right? It's a constant loop of you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. Self-bullying is being a bully to yourself in your mind. It's thinking thoughts that are cruel and unkind. And the thing is, we all do it. And it's not like we mean to bully ourselves. We don't want to. We weren't born doing it. So why do we all self-bully? There are, of course, various reasons. But for my years as a portrait photographer and working and speaking to hundreds of women, what I found to be the biggest reason why we self-bully is perfectionism. We tell ourselves that we need to have the perfect body and the perfect job and the perfect car and house and children and friends and grades and clothes. Oh my! It looks like a constant quest to perfect things on the outside. But what we're ultimately trying to do is to perfect ourselves on the inside. We don't feel good enough. We feel like failures in so many ways. So we turn to things on the outside that we think we can control. And when we don't achieve those outside things and we can't control them perfectly, we criticize ourselves. We tear ourselves down. We again tell ourselves that we're not good enough and we're screw-ups and we're bad and unlovable and stupid and ugly. That perfectionist self-bully is in our heads, encouraging us to say all the unhealthy, unkind words to ourselves. Today, we're going to break down what perfectionism is and isn't. I'll visually show you the difference between what happens when we use negative words and energy and positive words and energy. I'll show you how perfectionism is holding you back from living your dream. And I'll teach you ways to rephrase your unkind thoughts to stand up to the self-bully and help you move forward. And finally, you'll leave with action steps to combat those perfectionist thoughts in your everyday lives. Let's do this. So we're going to start with a quick exercise. Please take out your pen and your paper, and I want you to answer this question. Who do you want to be? When you look to the future, who do you want to be? When you think about living your dream, what does that look like in 3 years from now? What does the most joyful and authentic version of yourself look like? I want you to take 1 minute and write down everything that comes to your mind. No judgment, no thinking, I can't do that. Just write whatever comes to your mind about living your dream and who do you want to be. Go. All right, 15 more seconds. All right, put your pens down and we will come back to this exercise a little bit later. Now, I want you to picture the meanest, cruelest person that you know. If you need some help, you can picture Regina George from Mean Girls, or maybe Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians. Now, imagine that their full-time job is to follow you around 24/7, constantly criticizing you and judging every little thing that you do. From the foods you eat, to the clothes you wear, to the way you talk to someone. Pick, pick, pick. They fuel fears and insecurities that you didn't even know you had. And yet they tell you that if you could just do things better, get things right, eat better, dress better, act better, then those insecurities and fears that would go away. And you try, but every time they're back again, criticizing and judging every little thing that you do. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I thought that striving for perfection was good. And it can be. There is healthy striving. That's when we set high but achievable goals. That's when we can accept criticism and failure and use that to improve and learn from our mistakes. But that's not the type of perfection that I'm talking about today. What I've learned about this type of perfectionism is this, as defined by Brené Brown. Perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to be your best. It's not about healthy achievement and growth. It's not even about self-improvement or striving for excellence. What? Perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. It's a shield. I'd like to take you on a journey of a teenager to an adult woman to show you how that shield of perfectionism might look. So this young girl was told somewhere in her formative years, and she believed that she was not good enough, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not athletic enough, not enough of something. And to combat that feeling of self-failure, she became an overachiever, setting unrealistic academic standards for herself. She became a people pleaser and said yes to everyone but herself. She did what was expected of her and didn't really form a lot of her own ideas and opinions. And she obsessed over what she ate and weighed and wore. And as she got older, she continued to strive for more and more. That overachiever now wants the perfect car and handbag, and it's causing some debt. The people pleaser puts on a big smile and says yes to everything, and she's overcommitted. By doing what was expected of her, she took a job that she thought looked good and got married because she thought that's what she was supposed to do. And that body obsession morphed into binging and dieting. And the older she got, besides the perfect house and car, now she strives for the perfect children and clothes and friends. By getting married because she thought she should, it ultimately led to a divorce. The binging and dieting led to an eating disorder, which has impacted her health. The people pleaser who said yes to everything is now stressed and completely exhausted. And worst of all, since she said yes to what everyone else wanted from and for her, she never took the time to know what she wanted. She has no idea who she is. How do I know this? Because that person was me. I was in debt. I was divorced. I had an eating disorder. I was stressed and exhausted, and I had no idea who I was. At the time of this picture, it was 2008, and that perfect world that I had built was crumbling to the ground. Yet I remember on this particular trip, I really started noticing how the perfectionist self-bully was talking to me, and that it was holding me back from living the life that I dreamed of. I didn't know what that looked like yet exactly, but I started to get the sense of it. So let's go back to the exercise we started with. Take a look at what you wrote earlier and now write down the perfectionist judgments that come to you when you think of becoming the woman of and living your dreams. For example, your perfectionist judgment might be saying, you're too old or too fat to do that, or you're not smart enough, no one will take you seriously. So whatever those perfectionist judgments are, take 1 minute and write down as many of them that come to you. Go. All right, 15 seconds left to write down your perfectionist judgments. All right, pens down. What we have to accept and repeat over and over is there is no such thing as perfect. I want you to say it with me. There is no such thing as perfect. No one is perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect because it's an illusion. Perfect isn't real. Do you know what trying to be perfect actually gets us? By believing in perfectionism, we increase our risk for obsessive compulsive disorder, eating disorders, social anxiety, workaholism, self-harm, substance abuse, and clinical depression, as well as physical problems like chronic stress and heart disease. And as if that's not enough, perfectionism also holds us back from being that real, true person that we are inside and from living our lives to their fullest potential. Who wants that? I don't. And I have a feeling that you don't either. Perfectionism is not the way. No amount of achievements will ever bring us the love and acceptance that we are looking for. All right, that's been heavy. And typically, if we were doing a live virtual presentation, we'd go to the chat. So you could share what's coming up for you and what some of the things that that perfectionist self-bully has been telling you. But since we're not live and we can't do that, I wanted to share with you some of the responses that I've had from past participants in this talk. So what the perfectionist self-bully has been telling them is that they're not smart enough, they're not pretty enough, they're not creative enough, I won't make enough money or any money. It's a silly idea, no one does that. They don't want to fail. They're afraid of criticism, of not being liked and of looking stupid. They're not patient enough, not creative enough, not strategic enough. No matter what I do, it's never quite enough. What if I fail? What if I lose money? I can't put myself out there. Will others think I'm crazy? Why should they listen to me? I feel like my mommy skills are being questioned. Why would people seek me out? What if I can't do or be everything I want? What if it doesn't work? I'm too old, too tired, I have a lack of technical skills. Who do I think I am? You haven't accomplished enough to be qualified. What is it about me? I'm not special. Who does she think she is? Am I actually good enough? Oh man, it's hard to hear. These are some of what this perfectionist self-bully has been saying to other people. And I have a feeling that when you wrote down your own, some of these may have come up for you too. And I want you to know that you are not alone. So let's learn how to stand up to that perfectionist self-bully. Standing up to the self-bully starts by examining and really paying attention to our thoughts and words. According to a report by the Cleveland Clinic, the average person has 60,000 thoughts per day. Of those thoughts, 95% repeat each day, and on average, 80% of those repeated thoughts are negative. Oof. So I did the math, and if I did it right, that comes to about 46,000 negative thoughts per day. Ooh, boy. Now there are 86,400 seconds in a day, which means that approximately 52% of our thoughts per day are negative. And overall, what it comes down to is this: we have a negative thought every 1.9 seconds. And we typically don't even know that the self-bully is so prominent and intrusive. It starts the second we get out of bed, and it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Oh, I'm so tired. I just want to go back to bed. And then we walk into the bathroom and we look at ourselves. Oh, look at those bags under my eyes. I need to get these roots touched up. And then we step on the dreaded scale, and that number is never where we want it to be. I shouldn't have eaten that. Why am I so fat? Do you feel the way I talk to myself in those scenarios? It felt heavy and sad and depressing, right? And we're 1 minute into our day. We're not good enough. We're not good enough. We're not good enough. And that talk happens every 2 seconds throughout the entire day. Understatement of the year here, I know, but the way we talk to ourselves is really, really important. Let's take a look at science to see how negative words and energy versus positive words and energy affect us. And you may have heard about this before, but in the 1990s, a Japanese scientist named Dr. Emoto did an experiment that revolved around the hypothesis that water could respond to positive and negative thoughts and words. He exposed the water, which he had poured into a drinking glass, to different words, which he wrote on a piece of paper and then taped them to the glass. He then froze the water, and through the use of photography, he examined small frozen water crystals that had formed. And these are some of the results. The crystals that had formed as a result of the positive words, thank you, I love you, good job, well done, self-love, beauty, they were fully formed and beautiful geometric shapes. And the crystals that had formed as a result of negative words like you make me sick and you fool didn't get the chance to form into their fullest potential. I know you might be skeptical about the ice crystal experiment, but I know many of us performed this experiment as kids. A woman in London purchased some potted flowers, like something you'd get at a plant nursery or a home improvement store. And for 4 weeks, day in and day out, she said, I love you to one plant and I hate you to the other plant. Now, plants are made up of about 95% water, and we saw earlier what happens to water when it's exposed to positive and negative words and thoughts. So as you can imagine, the plant that she said, I love you to, bloomed and grew. And the plant she said, I hate you to, withered and died. Humans are made up of about 70% water. Our bodies respond the same way to positive and negative words and thoughts as those frozen water crystals and the plants did. When we flood our minds with positive, loving, and kind thoughts, we grow, we thrive, we blossom. And when we flood our minds with negative, destructive, unkind thoughts, we sink, we become small, we shrivel up and we die. Can you see why it's so important to stand up to the perfectionist self-bully? Our words and thoughts are contagious, and we have a choice literally every second of every day how we use them. In 2015, I had an experience that helped me really start talking back to the self-bully once and for all. As I was starting my business and creating my website, I realized that I needed photos of myself. Ugh. That caused so much anxiety for me because I was at my highest weight and I didn't feel like I was even worthy of existing in photos. Yet, as the face of my business, I knew that to truly connect with my clients, I needed to show them authentic photos of me. So I scheduled a session with a photographer who I hoped and prayed could take at least one good picture of me. And going into that session, that bully in my head was on full blast saying, Carrie, you're too fat to be photographed. No one wants to photograph you. Who do you think you are? Ever heard those voices? Yeah. But still, I knew I needed to do it. So I took a deep breath. I tuned out those negative voices the best I could, and I went for it. And guess what happened? We had fun. We laughed. That photographer made me feel loved and like the most beautiful woman in the world. I left that session holding my head so much higher than when I first walked in. And that was just from the experience. I hadn't even seen any of the photos yet. Later, when I finally did see the portraits of myself, and I saw this portrait of myself, I saw the real me for the first time. Not the outer me, but the me in my soul looking back at me. The woman I was and the woman I was becoming. And that moment changed everything for me. I felt so confident and empowered when I saw those photos of myself. And I knew in that moment that I wanted every woman to have the same experience. To feel the confidence and empowerment like I felt. That day, that portrait session was the catalyst that I needed to see myself differently and to start really changing how I talk to myself. I saw a person that I liked. I saw my potential and I started treating her a lot kinder. And since standing up to the self-bully, I have stepped into the KARIANNE that you see before you today. A woman who no longer hides from the camera and who no longer keeps herself small. A woman who spreads love and empowers other women through photography. And a woman who now takes daily steps to live my own dreams. To stand up to the bully, we must retrain our brains and rephrase our thoughts and words. We do this by noticing our thoughts and changing judgments to facts or perfectionist thoughts to reality. It's the way we take emotion out of the judgment also, right? Judgment to fact or perfectionism to reality. This is how it might look. Judgment, I'm an idiot. Is that true? Fact, at this time, I don't understand this, right? Judgment to fact, or it could be something like this. Judgment, I look horrible in all photos. Is that true? Well, no. And here's the thing, guys, you might think it's true, but in reality, this is the fear and shame emotions and comparison talking, because there's no one person out there that looks horrible in all photos. We don't all look our best from time to time, but we have to diminish that all or nothing thinking. So is that true? No. And the fact is, I am my worst critic, and I have a perception of myself that is not congruent with how others see me. So you see how you do this. Judgment, ask yourself if it's true, and typically it's not, and change it to a fact. So let's practice. Let's go back to those perfectionist judgments you wrote down earlier. And this is a really important part. So take 2 minutes now for this exercise. For each judgment, ask yourself if it's really true and take out the emotion. Rewrite your judgment as a fact. Go. Okay, go ahead and put your pens down. And this is something that you might have to continue on after this presentation because you might need a little bit more time. So, like I said earlier, I typically would ask my live participants at this point, what's coming up for them? And how did it feel to rewrite those judgments to facts? And here are some of their responses. For one person, it felt hopeful. Somebody said it felt good, a lot lighter. A little uncomfortable, but not hard. Inspirational and fierce. It felt hopeful. I realized I am not the things I thought. I got some of my power back. It's easy to write, but hard to internalize. For example, I have a lot to offer is easy, but retaining it will take practice. Taking the emotion out of it and rethinking it as a fact is a total 180. It's not difficult to do, but I'm sure it will not come easy in regular practice. It takes the drama out. Someone said it felt unwieldy for me. I had to really struggle to change judgments to facts. Someone else said it felt light. I am the master of finding exceptions in every situation. I keep thinking of my daughters and how they should start early with this type of thinking. So as you wrote down, as you changed your perfectionist judgments into facts, may have had some of these same responses as well. You know, some people find it very easy and some people find it very difficult. And I want you to know that you are not alone. Changing your thoughts from negative to positive is going to take a lot of work. It will not happen overnight. At times, it will be easier than at other times, and that's okay. Be patient with yourself and give yourself lots of grace. It will take time. And I want to share some really good news. Just as you can be your own biggest self-bully, you can turn that bully into your own self-bestie. Call it your biggest cheerleader or your biggest supporter, whatever resonates with you. Now, a best friend, as we know, is the opposite of a bully. You can be your most real and authentic self with this person without judgment. She's someone who will stand up for you when you need it the most. She loves you no matter what kinds of silly things you might do, and she always wants the best for you. I'd like to tell you a story of a woman who chose to be her own best friend rather than her biggest bully. It was May 2019, and the requests for nominations for her association's end of year awards were sent out. She looked at the criteria for Business Owner of the Year, and that self-bully said to her, "You are not qualified. You could never apply for something like that. You are not worthy." So she deleted the email, and the email came across her desk again, and she had those same self-bully, perfectionist thoughts. And on the third time the email crossed her desk, she remembered a conversation that she had recently had with a friend. I'm sure that you've heard this before, but it goes something like this. A man will look at a job description or award criteria and think, I'm qualified for about 50% of that. I'll apply. And a woman will look at the same job description or award criteria and think, I'm only about 95% qualified. I could never apply for that. Right? We've all done it. I've done it. I did it here. Though that self-bully was telling her that she wasn't good enough, she stood up to the self-bully and made the choice to be her own best friend. She applied for and nominated herself for the Business Owner of the Year award. And you know what happened? She won. I won. That's what being our own best friend can do for us. My self-bestie wanted the best for me, and she helped me stand up to the self-bully in my head. Without her, I never would have applied for that particular award. So when we can be our own self-bestie instead of our self-bully, we can accomplish so much more than we ever thought. What we can achieve is limitless. So let's talk about the definition of bestie again. Let's apply it to our self-bestie. A best friend is the opposite of a bully. She's someone who will stand up for you when you need it the most. You can be your most real and authentic self with this person without judgment. She loves you no matter what kinds of silly things you might do, and she always wants the best for you. So let's break down how it looks when we're choosing to be our own self-bestie. She's someone who will stand up for you when you need it the most. We saw this in my early example about nominating myself for this award and winning without my self-bestie standing up for me. I never would have been able to tell that self-bully because it was in my head so much, telling me over and over again that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't successful enough, I wasn't ready for this type of award. But my self-bestie stood up for me and I was able to overpower that self-bully. And look what happened. You can be your most real and authentic self with this person without judgment. Now, what exactly does it mean to be authentic? I love Brené Brown's definition. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. I love that definition so much. We've been told by media or our parents or whomever that we're supposed to be a certain way. But that phrase supposed to, much like the word should, is an outside entity putting a way of being on us. I'm supposed to be thin. I'm supposed to make X dollars each year. I'm supposed to never make mistakes. I'm supposed to get married by age 25. Who says, right? Now, these are all my supposed tos, but you have your own. Who is putting these supposed tos on us, right? Who says we're supposed to be these things? Our self-bestie helps us release the shoulds and the supposed tos and be our real selves and our core. The person that we want to be, not the person that we're told that we're supposed to be. And I get it. Being real can be scary. Being authentic can be scary. I mean, the whole point of perfectionism is to avoid the pain of judgment and ridicule and shame. And by being our real selves, the true and authentic us, people might reject us. Friends might turn away from us. People that we don't know might say horrible things to us. Family might say hurtful words to us. This might happen, and it will hurt. And those people aren't your people. That hurts too, but those people aren't your people. I started going on Facebook Live last year and sharing my stories. The stories that I had a lot of shame and vulnerability around. And I was really scared that people would laugh at me or say hurtful things towards me or think that I was bad. I shared stories like I talked about weight and why we have all the shame around a number on a scale. And I actually shared the number on the scale with hundreds of people. I shared my Me Too story, and that is an extraordinarily painful story for me to share that I have tons of vulnerability and shame around. And I was so scared that I would get a lot of negative response from that. But the opposite happened. The more I shared, the more I was open and honest and vulnerable and real, the more people turned towards me. I formed even deeper relationships. And I have actually done a lot of healing because sharing those vulnerable parts of our lives also takes the power away from the shame and judgment we have around those areas. Your self-bestie accepts you and your most real and authentic self without judgment. Your self-bestie loves you no matter what kinds of silly things you might do. That self-bestie in our head tells us that being silly or foolish is bad. Feeling foolish turns into looking stupid, and our self-bully wants none of that. So in order to not look stupid, our self-bully holds us back from trying new activities in case we fail. True story here, when I was in high school, I played softball. In my junior year, I decided not to try out for the varsity team. I decided that not trying was better than trying and failing and looking stupid. And I regret that to this day. The self-bully holds us back from creating art because there are no rules to art and it's subjective as to whether it's good or not. It holds us back from making new friends or asking someone out on a date because the fear of looking stupid if they reject us is just too much. It holds us back from dancing, or at least it holds me back from dancing. It's one of those things that I am still trying to work on and overcome. And maybe you feel this too. I'm so scared that I will look foolish and stupid on the dance floor. And that self-bully still has a massive hold over me in this area. But your self-bestie, she loves you no matter what kinds of silly things you might do. Even if it's dancing like nobody's watching, like my amazing client is here in this picture. And your self-bestie always wants the best for you. Imagine what your best friend would say if she heard you saying these things to yourself when you looked in the mirror. I hate my body. I look too old. My arms are too big. This outfit looks horrible on me. I can't do it. No one will ever love me. I could never pull that off. My body will never be bikini ready. I'll do it when I lose weight. I'm not good enough. You know what your self-bestie would say? She would say, knock that talk off. She wants the best for you, and talking like this to yourself is definitely not the best for you. She would remind you of her favorite quote by Mahatma Gandhi. What do you believe? Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. So when it comes down to it, your thoughts and your words become your destiny. And your self-bestie wants the absolute best for your destiny and for you to live your dreams. She encourages you to change your thoughts to this. I love my body. Hello, gorgeous. I am comfortable in my own skin. I am unique and important. My smile can make someone's day. I wear the clothes that I want to. I accept myself. I've got this. I love myself just as I am. By choosing to change your thoughts, you can change your self-bully into your self-bestie. Now, loving the way I looked in my photos was the catalyst that helped me to start changing the way I talk to myself. And I've seen it happen time and time again with the clients I photographed. All too often, I've heard women say how they hate to see themselves in photos. This is one way to start talking kinder to yourself, to see the incredible person that you are on the inside reflected on the outside. So let's do a quick fun exercise with 3 tips to help you too love yourself in photos. So take out your cell phone, okay? So the first tip is to turn toward the light. A large window is best if you have that available. So right now I'm facing a large window, or it could be if you have a great ring light, something like that, but I'm turned towards the light. What it does is it naturally lightens and brightens our face, and it helps to fill in any of the fine lines and shadows that we have. So the next is to hold that phone, the camera on your phone, at eye level. So many people hold it way down here, and what do we see? We see up our nose. Or we hold it way up high and then we're straining. So the tip is to hold that camera on your phone right at eye level. And for us who are a little bit curvier, hold it a little tiny bit higher and angle it down a little tiny bit. Okay, so that's tip number 2. And tip number 3 is to push that chin out towards the phone and chin down a little bit. So this helps to reduce the appearance of the extra skin, aka the double chin, and it also puts the emphasis on your eyes. Okay, so after we have implemented all 3 tips, turn towards a big light source, the camera at our eye level or slightly up and angled down, push our chin out and chin down, go ahead and take that selfie. Just a couple, not 100. Okay, so there is one more step to this. And I want you to say something, and I want you to say it out loud. I know I can't hear you, but I'm holding you to saying this out loud. I want you to say one nice thing about the person that you see in your selfie. Yes, something nice about you. Whether or not it's about your looks or not, just say one nice thing. Like I might look at my selfie and say, I love my smile. Or I might say, I'm so proud of you for participating in this conference, right? Just one nice thing. Say something nice to the selfie that you see. So why did we do this exercise? Well, like it happened for me, perhaps seeing yourself differently in photos will be your catalyst to changing the way you talk to yourself. When you see a photo of yourself that you like, you can change a perfectionist judgment like this. Judgment, I'm too ugly to write a book. And I know that those two things don't really seem like they go together, but our perfectionist self-bully tells us all sorts of irrational things. So judgment, I'm too ugly to write that book. And then the question, as you look at the selfie that you took, that you like, is that true? And the answer is no. I now have physical evidence in my hand that this isn't true. So the fact now becomes, my looks have nothing to do with my ability to write a book, and it's up to me to explore what is holding me back. One small act of defiance to that self-bully and one small positive change of thought can set you on a trajectory of making much bigger changes. All right, so throughout today's talk, I've guided you through an exercise to help you start talking back to your self-bully. And I'm also going to suggest a few simple action items that you can take with you today to incorporate into your own daily life. So obviously the first one is to continue to take selfies using the 3 tips you've learned and say at least one nice thing about the person looking back at you. Okay, that's action step 1. Action step 2 is to look in the mirror and say, hello, gorgeous. Or for the guys, hello, handsome, with a smile on your face, first thing in the morning, every day for 30 days. By creating a positive thought first thing in the morning, the serotonin that is produced in our brains will help create a feeling of well-being that will last throughout the day. Try it for 30 days and see how just that simple act can transform you. And action step number 3. Review your social media feeds to see who brings you down and who makes you feel more confident. I want you to unfollow feeds and people and brands that trigger your self-bully, whatever it's saying to you. You don't need that. You don't need to see that in your social media feeds. And follow feeds that help you become more of who you want to be. Follow people, follow brands that feed positivity into your social media feeds. You have full control over them, so use them for good. And here's the thing. You have to be willing to put in the work to change the way you talk to yourself. And every time that you do, bit by bit, you're going to take away the power from the bully until one day you wake up and you are living as that woman who you dream of becoming. A domino effect is produced when one event sets off a chain of similar events. Now, imagine yourself with a circle of dominoes all standing up on the table right in front of you. I want you to feel yourself pushing that first domino down. We all know what happens from there, right? They all fall down. Words and thoughts are energy. When we say an unkind word to ourselves, it creates a domino effect. When we're unkind to ourselves, it conditions our mind for our next encounter with the next person. Now, if that next encounter is with your child, you might say something unkind or react negatively to them. Or it could be your spouse or your coworker. Your negativity hurts them, and their next encounter is influenced by their interaction with you. So that unkind word that you said to yourself first thing in the morning has the potential of creating a domino effect of negativity on dozens or even hundreds of people. If we criticize ourselves, we put out criticism into the world. And like that circle of dominoes, it eventually comes back to us. And when we love ourselves or approve of ourselves, we spread love into the world. And that eventually comes back to us. When we look in the mirror and say, "Good morning, beautiful," imagine that positive domino effect on others. That positive energy is then carried with you to your next encounter. And then it's carried with them to their next encounter. When we are kinder to ourselves, we help build others up. We stop those dominoes from falling and stand them back up again. When we are kinder to ourselves, the effect is that we are kinder to the world. And what the world needs more of is you living as you. Not as who you think you're supposed to be, not as who that perfectionist self-bully tells you to be, but who you truly are. That self-bully is holding you back. Will you continue to let it? No! We get one life, my friends, so stand up to the self-bully. Become your own best friend and start living the life of your dreams. Now, what is one bite-sized action that you can take today? Take a minute and write it down. I'll give you a few minutes here. One bite-sized action that you can take with you today. All right. Now, of course, bite-sized is great, but if you'd love to find out more ways to work with me, of course, there are a number of ways. So first, if you'd love to be photographed and see your own beautiful, authentic self and to feel that confidence and empowerment like I did, then let's chat about a portrait session for you. Second, if you are part of a women's association or a networking group and you think that they would benefit from this message, then let's chat about speaking to your group. Third, if this topic really spoke to you today and you'd like to dig even or dive even deeper into this topic, then let's chat to see if my new coaching program is the right program for you. And finally, if you are a high achieving woman and you would like to be inspired to ditch perfectionism and live an authentic life, then I invite you to join my Facebook community. You can find out more about photography, about speaking, about coaching, and about my Facebook community on my website, KARIANNEMUNSTEDT.com. And I know it's hard to spell, so take a second and grab your cell phone and take a quick picture of this page so you've got the right spelling there. I'll give you just a second. All right, good. And of course, there are plenty of ways to connect with me if you'd like to connect further. My website, I told you, you can email me at Carrie@KARIANNEMUNSTEDT.com. You can find me on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Pinterest, all the places you can find me, except on Twitter. I'm not there, but you can find me everywhere else. Again, thank you to Chelsea Colley for including me in your booth presentations at the Best You Expo today. It has been my tremendous honor to be part of this event with such amazing speakers. Thank you so much.